This episode I call the Restaurant Financial Playbook because it's all about knowing your critical numbers or your KPIs, key performance indicators, where you're making money, where you're losing money, all the things that operators need to focus in on to be super, super profitable. We're going to talk about menu profit. We're going to talk about prime cost, as well as daily break even, labor abuses, all kinds of other seemingly innocent places where your restaurant could be losing money every single day. Don't miss this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. And thanks to our sponsors this week. On with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Running a restaurant means juggling a lot: menus, orders, payments, and keeping everything consistent. Menu Tiger makes that easier. With Menu Tiger, guests scan a QR code at their table to see your digital menu, place their order, and even pay right from their phone. Behind the scenes, you can update menus instantly with custom branding, manage multiple locations, track sales with real-time analytics, even add upsells or collect guest feedback. It's simple, efficient, and built for restaurants of all sizes. Try Menu Tiger today and see how much smoother your restaurant can run. Get started at menutiger.com. Hey there and welcome back. It's Roger. You know, it's a fact that many operators don't know their KPIs or key performance indicators. Yes, this is a finance episode because it's vitally important to your success. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you know your menu profit, item by item in each category? Do you know your prime cost? Do you know your daily break even? A lot of operators aren't calculating these KPIs on a regular basis, but again, it's vitally important. Now, you've heard me say before, run a business, don't run a restaurant. Build a powerful brand. There's a huge difference between running a restaurant and running a business. It's all about the feel for the business, watching every penny come in, watching every penny go out, and just really understanding cash flow, because cash is the lifeblood of your business. It's all about cash flow. Now, the more you sell higher profit items, the better. So let's dive in. You take profit to the bank, not food cost. The industry is overly concerned with food cost. I've talked about that before. Now, I call this episode the Financial Playbook. Let me tell you a story. I worked with a lunch and dinner, busy steakhouse restaurant, independent, $3 million in annual sales. They haven't costed out their menu, okay? They hadn't done that in years, even though they had a chef in the kitchen. Now that's at their peril, isn't it? They had no idea what it cost to serve any menu item to the customer. They just randomly assign prices based on what the competition is doing, but they don't know what the competition is buying for product. So think about it. A menu is your most powerful marketing tool. It's something everybody sees, but it's either making you money, it's either maximizing your profit, or you're losing money day by day. Okay, so they didn't cost out their menu. We did that. What an eye-opener that was. Now, I've done this exercise with many operators. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. But think about the spread or the profit difference in every menu category. You want that profit spread or difference in each category to be very similar to each other. Now imagine your higher expense items, or what you charge on the menu at higher prices. We're talking entrees, that sort of thing. I always in my restaurants wanted all those things to be within $1 difference or less. Now, lower priced items such as salads or appetizers or desserts, I wanted those to be within a 50-cent difference, okay? But what I'm seeing, especially in this steakhouse case, is the profit difference in each category is many dollars. So let's just say they're selling this appetizer versus that. They could be losing $3, $4, $5 profit on their apps because lower profit items are taking sales away from what they want to sell, what they could be selling. On the entree side, I saw this restaurant losing $10, $12, $13 or more from the more profitable items that they wanted to sell. What was the bottom line? Now, I created this tool. I call it the Menu Profit Accelerator, and you can get it too. It's in my Restaurant Academy at restaurantrockstars.com. But what the Profit Accelerator template showed them, I demonstrated after I plugged in all the information, was where they were losing money in every single category, and all those categories added up because, again, every day, every shift, all month, they're losing money all year because lower profit items are taking sales away, and that profit spread is many dollars. Do you know what the dollar amount was? Now, this restaurant that I may have mentioned was about a $3 million annual sales operation. Pretty nice. And they lost a potential profit last year of over $365,000 against that $3 million in profit. They're barely making any money at all. That's a dangerous thing. Have you costed out your menu? Do you know what your profit is, item by item, category by category? You could be filling your seats and wondering, why is my bank account not growing? Well, this is the number one reason why. Now, you can't control inflation. You've heard me say that. You can't control the highest labor costs ever that we have to pay, especially in the kitchen. What you can control is your efficient scheduling and cutting people. We're going to get to that. But you can't control wages, and they seem to go up all the time. And there's a point where you can't continue to raise menu prices and still offer value to your guests, okay? So you might be filling your seats wondering, why is my bank account not growing? Let's start with menu costing, okay? It's a process. How do you do that? Now, whoever your suppliers are, whether you work with the big box, big three retailers, the Performances and the Cisco's and US Foods, whether you work with them or other suppliers, you will get invoices, and it shows how your products come in the door, in what quantity, and what the price you pay is. And you also might get an order guide from the larger suppliers that demonstrate or show you in a printout or a report every single food item that you buy, okay, and how it comes in and what the price is. So there's a little bit of math involved here. It's not complicated, but you need to reverse engineer the big quantity that comes in the door right down to the quantity that goes on the plate. Now, it certainly helps if you've got a kitchen manager or a chef that works with this food every single day. You've got portion controls in place. You have specs. You know what quantity of every ingredient goes on every single item. Therein lies the homework, but we make it simple with my template. So that's what you have to do. Reverse engineer it so that you've got a menu item plate cost, literally for every single item. Now, that item plate cost sheet tells you several things. One, it tells you the total ingredient cost. Forget the labor. We're not talking labor here, just the total cost of the ingredients that go into any menu item in any category. Okay. And then you put in on that menu item plate cost the price you charge your guest for that. And then my template in the accelerator automatically calculates the profit per dish, which subtracts the menu ingredient cost from the price you charge the guest, and then there's the profit per dish. And then the third thing it shows is your food cost, because it divides the ingredient cost by the price you charge the guest, and it gives you a food cost percentage. It's a wonderful tool. So then what do? Now that you've got these menu item profit sheets in every category, you need to rank them. Which one is the most profitable, the second most profitable, the third, and so on and so forth. And then you plug that into my template, and then you also plug in point of sale data over the past year. I like a lot of data, okay? It's really telling of how much money you're losing all year. If you change your menu once a year, you got a year's worth of data. You change it twice a year, you got obviously 6 months of data, but the more data, the better. The bottom line is it's going to show you everything that's stealing sales away from what you want to be selling, okay? And then there's some things that you can do to tighten that up, to stop the bleeding, to make more money immediately. Let's talk about that. Okay. Train your staff. Once you know the most profitable items, okay? We trained every single day in my restaurants, and my team knew which ones were the most profitable. But then when we really dialed in the menu where everything was a really tight spread, I mentioned the dollar and the most expensive and the 50 cents and the lower priced menu items, we didn't care what they were selling as long as they were suggestive selling and moving the merchandise, and we didn't have a waste, a spoilage, or a theft issue, okay? And that's the key point here. But first, Train your team to suggest every table, every time, your most profitable items, and suddenly they will move. The next thing you can do is you can do a quick menu reprint. You can box those items in. You can highlight them in yellow. You can use icons calling them guest favorites or most popular. Okay, that's a thing. But we have a sponsor this week called Menu Tiger that allows you to create digital menus on the fly, and you can change them on a heartbeat. You can change these menus, you can custom brand them, and it's even got pay by order, pay at the table features. But anyway, we're talking about menus, so let's move on. Okay, the quick menu reprint is the first thing you do. Now, portion controls are vitally important. Okay, you got to have portion controls, and those are standards to make sure that every person making your dish is making it the right way. Okay, so you want to find out where you're losing money. The Menu Accelerator is going to show you that every single day. Okay, what you find out might be a big, huge surprise, like the $360,000 lost in that steakhouse. Now, I've done this for multiple clients. You've heard me talk about the 5-location pizza chain that lost $885,000 in potential profit. Same reason. Hadn't costed out their menu, had no idea which items were the most profitable, and they're losing money all day in every category for that very reason. That's the biggest needle mover today. So please do me a favor, do this exercise. Okay, next, let's talk about prime cost. So many restaurants, it's a benchmark in our industry, but so many restaurants aren't calculating prime cost. They don't even know what that is. They're not even calculating their food and beverage and labor costs and tracking them every single week. You have to do it. I did it religiously for 23 years in all of my restaurants. Okay, so prime cost is the sum total of your food, beverage, and labor cost expressed as a percentage. And the industry benchmark says to make any money in this business, your prime cost should not exceed 55%. Now, that's something to shoot for. What does that mean? Simple math tells you that for every dollar of sales that come in the door, 55 cents of that goes to your food, your beverage, and your labor, which only leaves 45 cents left over from every dollar of sales to pay every other expense in your restaurant. The biggest one I can think of besides your food cost would be your lease on your property, or your mortgage and your property tax if you own the property. But then there's also repairs and maintenance, and there's utilities and linens and the dumpster in the parking lot and all these other expenses, landscaping perhaps, linen on the tables. It goes on and on. So if you have any hope of making money, you got to shoot for a 55% prime cost. Okay, that's vitally important also. Okay, let's talk about daily break even. Do you know what it costs you to open the doors to your restaurant on any given day? Doesn't matter which day, you just put the key in the lock, turn the key, open the door, turn the lights on. You've got food in the walk-in, you got beverage in the coolers, you got staff prepping the food, food ready to sell, people ready to serve. You get the idea. This costs a whole lot of money. Do you know what that cost is any given day? That is your daily break-even amount. So how do you calculate it? You put together a list of your fixed and variable costs, okay? And then divide by 30. And quick definition, a fixed cost is something that you have to pay whether your restaurant is open 7 days a week or 30 days a month, or it's open 4 days a week, okay? You get the idea. So a fixed cost is something like, obviously, the lease on your property. Your landlord doesn't care how many days you're open. You got to pay that lease whether you're open 7 days or 4 days. You get the idea. Okay, something that varies. A variable cost, of course, is your payroll, your cost of goods, your utilities, okay? All that kind of stuff goes up or down based on the hours and the days that you're open. So that's really important also. Okay, you got to track this closely. So, are your sales consistent? Now, many restaurants have slow days, right? Perhaps Monday is a slow day. Maybe it's a Tuesday. You need to look in history for the last couple of months or weeks even and see on that Monday, are my sales pretty consistent? Okay, is it $900 a day? Is it $1,000 or more a day? Okay. And then you compare that to your daily break even number. Let's just say 2000 is your break even. And for the last 4 or 5 weeks in a row, you hit $900, you hit $1,200, you hit $1,300, but 2000 is your break even. You're losing money every single Monday. Now, some restaurants would say, oh, I need consistency because I don't want to upset any guests that want to come by on a Monday. Did you know that once you know this number, that you will lose less money by closing that day and giving your team a day off than by opening? And as long as you communicate that to your guests and let them know Mondays were closed, they'll get used to it pretty quickly. You're not upsetting anyone, but you're saving yourself a lot of money and you're increasing your bottom line. Okay, so that's really important. But first, before you make the decision to close your restaurant on a Monday, pull out all the stops. Come up with some kind of a special promotion, okay, that drives traffic. Come up with a catchy name. Come up with some hook, something that drives business in the door. It could be a special deal on a bottle of wine. It could be, who knows, it could be anything. So Tuesdays in my wood-fired pizzeria were always the slowest days, okay, for quite a while. We tracked it, and so we got to come up with an idea. So we came up with, and this was a decade or two ago, more than that. It was probably 15 or 20 years ago, but we had a slow Tuesday before I sold this restaurant. We came up with $5 pizza night and we invited all the locals. We promoted the heck out of this and we offered one size pizza. We only had one personal 12-inch pizza, but it was $5 with 2 toppings. And yes, we still made a little bit of money on the pizza, but what we found was we sold at least 2 drinks to every person that came in the door, and in some cases a dessert, okay? So it turned out that the $5 pizza night started being made fun of, and the people would come in week after week, but they were calling it $45 pizza night because that would be each person's individual check. It wasn't, yeah, they'd buy a $5 pizza, but then they'd buy 2 drinks and a dessert, and the whole thing would turn out, well, you get the idea. But that's fun, right? So come up with a special promotion that drives business. If you absolutely can't do that, or you try it and it fails, then close and give your staff the day off. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, lots of restaurants are seasonal, aren't they? Maybe yours is seasonal. Mine was. Now, I was at a ski resort with many of my restaurants, and we were only open during the winter season. We were open literally mid-November to the early start of April, and then all of April, all the way to the next November, we were closed. And we needed a budget, a really serious pro forma projection of every expected expense and even the unexpected expenses. So where did you get this information? I got it from past invoices. And I put together a list of every single expense. The daily break-even was a really good source of this information. But I put together a spreadsheet, a template, and it listed every single expense I was going to have every single month for the whole summer that I was closed. And I always made sure that we left a cash cushion or a reserve, okay, in the bank based on that budget month after month. And the template I created, that it's again available in the Restaurant Academy, will literally subtract the prior month and keep up to date as the months go by, and it literally lowers those expenses, but it keeps your cash cushion and it shows you how much money you should have left over in your bank account on the day you reopen your business for the next season to cover your payroll or the COD, deliveries of alcohol, that kind of thing. You need working capital, okay, a reserve until you get going again and start generating money. So even if you're closed just for a month or two or a short period of time, it's still a really good idea to have that budget projection. That is vitally important. And don't forget, there are definitely unexpected things around the corner you can't see. Maybe it's a repair of a piece of equipment, who knows, but you should anticipate that within your cushion for the unexpected expenses. Okay, what about profit leaks? There are a lot of seemingly innocent things that lose you money. Let's start with payroll. And it goes back a story I'm going to tell you about my first restaurant so long ago. I noticed one day that I prepared the payroll. I never calculated the payroll. I had a payroll company that did all the processing and printed the checks. But what I would do would I would literally print out the report on my POS system, and I would review the report, the punch ins and the punch outs. And I had, God, 40 or 50 people in that first restaurant. And I would compare the time they were scheduled to clock in. And I suddenly noticed that out of 40 or 50 people, I had 10 or 12 or 15 or 18 sometimes punching in anywhere from 5 to 12 to even 15 minutes earlier than they're scheduled. If you don't look, you'd never see this. But I noticed that. So I decided to watch these people, the people that were the chronic offenders, right? And I watched them for a couple of days. And what did I notice? Okay, they'd walk in the door, and the very first thing they would do, of course, is go to the point of sale system and clock in. Everyone's going to do that, right? And then they hang up their coat. The ladies would go into the bathroom and put on their makeup, and then any employee, team member, then they'd go to the bar and they'd have a soda, and then they'd go chit chat with their friends. And this is like 8, 10, 12 minutes of this times 10, 12, 15 or more people. And I realized this was costing us hundreds of dollars a month. And we were really good to our people. We had incentives and recognition and rewards and flexibility and time off. We treated our people like family. And I thought this was an innocent abuse, but I got to put a stop to it because it's costing us money in unproductive time. So I created another template that I called the menu change authorization. And I made it very clear to people that if your name didn't appear on the sheet and the time that you were scheduled to come in and the time you actually came in and the reason why you came in early and with a sign off by your team leader, then I wasn't going to pay you for that time. And I had every right to go to the point of sale system and edit their time to the time the schedule said they were supposed to be there, unless there was a legitimate reason for the call in, thus the reason for the template. That stopped it. There was an even bigger abuse. One day, I had 3 ladies prepping in the kitchen. Every guest in your restaurant sees your menu. It's your most important and effective marketing tool, and every impression counts. TerraSlate not only provides easy-to-clean, waterproof, ripstop, antimicrobial menus that last, they also work with you to design menus that sell. It's time for a new menu. Get TerraSlate with a super-fast one-day turnaround and free overnight shipping. Go to terraslate.com. That's spelled TerraSlate.com. Long time ago. And we had a lot of prep because we made our own sauces from scratch and our salad dressings and our pizza doughs and all this kind of stuff. So they had a long laundry list of prep to do during the day because every night was busy and they'd have to make hundreds of pizza doughs and salads and all this kind of stuff. One day, one of those ladies had some kind of an appointment that she needed to go to last minute. Maybe it was she got called in because the kid in school, there was some issue with the kid. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the fact remains is she goes to punch out and the other 2 said, don't worry about it. Don't even punch out. We'll just keep up doing, we'll do your work and we'll just keep going. And if you'll be back in an hour or so, no big deal. And so they did that. And that person never clocked out. And then whenever any of those ladies needed to be somewhere else, even if it was a couple of hours, it's like the others would pick up the slack, but they kept that person on the clock. And I caught on to that. I'm like, wow, that was not an innocent abuse. That was clearly taking advantage. So again, I put a stop to all these things. But again, it was also about the menu change authorization sheet. So just know that seemingly innocent abuses or not so happen in your restaurant. People are also needy, right? They have apartments of their own. They need silverware. They need ketchup and mustard and condiments and toilet paper and paper towels and all these things that are readily available in your restaurant. Oh, I won't miss this roll of toilet paper, stick it in their handbag or their backpack or whatever. You could lose a ton of stuff unless you've got systems in place and checks and balances. I remember a long time ago, I started a steakhouse, a high-end steakhouse, and we needed very high-end silverware. And every piece cost like $5 or $6, every knife, fork, and spoon. And we had to bring in thousands of dollars to open this steakhouse. A couple of months later, I go in the silverware drawer, and it's half empty. So I go to the dish pit to see is there a whole bunch of silverware that hasn't been washed? No. It had disappeared. Where did it go? Just some busser in the dish pit, not caring so much about what he's doing, scraping a plate. Oh, that fork ends up in the trash, that knife. Over a course of months, we lost hundreds of pieces of silverware, okay? Until we put systems in place. We taught people, treat this place like you own the place. We take good care of you. Again, the recognition rewards, and we empowered people to be leaders and to treat the business as if they owned it and had to pay for it. I went so far as to have very basic open book management because in the beginning they thought every time Roger sells a $25 steak, $25 goes into Roger's pocket. So I took that $25 steak and then I subtracted a percentage of all of my expenses. Remember the fixed and variable costs? And down to the dollars and pennies, and I showed them what our profit actually was. And every time somebody broke a plate, and our plates were expensive too. I think the plates were like $7 or $10 each at the time. And this was decades ago. And every time somebody just accidentally dropped a plate, that $10 came off the profit of the next steak or whatever we were selling. And I trained our people this. Suddenly, all of those accidents slowed way down. The silverware didn't end up in the trash anymore. People policed their stations. People watched each other. If somebody saw something, they'd let somebody know. And that's empowering people to treat the place like they owned it and have respect. And in turn, we gave them a voice and we improved their work. And we did everything we could to make a really pleasant and fun environment based on teamwork and respect. That's what it was all about. Okay. So let's talk about portion controls. Super important. Let's go back to that wood-fired pizzeria. I'm open all of 2 weeks. Maybe you heard this story before. And I'm watching the pizza line. I have 3 different pizza makers, and we had one-size pizza, as I told you. And I watched the first pizza maker put 12 slices of pepperoni, and the second one put 10 slices, and the next person put 13. I'm counting the slices of pepperoni as they're putting on the pizza, and I'm looking at it carefully. So I went to my kitchen leader, and I asked her, what's the spec call for on this pepperoni pizza? She's 10 slices. I'm like, we've been open for a couple of weeks now. We sell a couple of hundred pizzas a day, and pepperoni's a big seller. And these other 2 people are either putting 2 or 3 extra slices of pepperoni. What is that costing us in profit, in lost profit, and in increased food cost? And sure enough, we put standards in place so that every person had a photograph, had a spec sheet of exactly how many pieces of pepperoni go on a pizza. I also noticed servers way back in the day would put 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream on a blueberry pie or a cheesecake if it was ordered a la mode, only because they thought they'd get a better tip. We put a stop to all these things. Again, seemingly innocent abuses that if you're not trained, if you don't have spec sheets and portion controls, you're losing money every day. Remember, pennies equal dollars. You got to have checks and balances as well, besides the procedures and the systems. Okay, what's the key to all this? A team that has your back, creating a dream team. Empowered people. I've told you this before. I don't like the word delegate because anyone can tell someone what to do or how to do it. But empowerment means recognizing talent in someone, giving them trust, respecting their good judgment that they're going to have your back and do a great job because they don't want to let you down. Building a dream team is what it's all about, and it takes true leadership to do that. I have a complete course in the Restaurant Academy on leadership, but trust and judgment. Treat it like you own it. Treat it like you had to pay for it. Recognize and reward programs. Oh my gosh, that was super powerful as a morale builder. Team incentives and contests for suggestive selling and healthy competitions, like all this stuff. Everything I've learned in 30 years is literally in the Academy, but gosh, don't miss out on recognition and rewards because it builds morale, it lowers turnover, it creates longevity, and people literally will just enjoy working together. And that's the teamwork and respect piece. And doesn't every restaurant want that? That's just what it's all about. Okay, people stay where they feel valued. Give them a voice. One of the biggest things we did, we had some brainstorming sessions pretty regularly. And the very first time I did this, I just decided, wow, I recognized that everybody working in my restaurant in a different position was an expert at what they did. And they saw things every single day that I might miss because they're doing that same gig every day, right? In the same position. And I'm like, wow, they must see things, but unless I ask, I'm not going to get. So I'm like, wow, I had all these flip charts and Sharpie markers in the room. Okay, maybe you heard me say this before, but it was super powerful. And I got everyone together. We had donuts and coffee and all that kind of stuff. And I simply said, you know what? I trust and value your opinions and things every day in your position that I might miss. If you have any ideas or if you see anything that we could be doing better or ways to improve the business or ways to cut costs or increase sales or increase profits or a marketing idea or preventative maintenance, anything you see that's a leak or a waste or a spoilage or anything, go up there and write it on the board. And it took a little coaxing at first, but then they got into the spirit. And I said, no idea is a crazy idea. No one's going to laugh at you. If you see something or if you think it's a valid idea, go up there and write it. And then I said, I'm going to look at all these ideas. And if I can narrow them down to a short list of the things I think that are going to move the needle the most, and if I can track them, I'm going to give you a piece of that performance increase or a piece of that cut cost or a piece of the impact on the bottom line, however it shakes out, for as long as you work for me and as long as you continue or as long as that idea continues to generate revenue. And pretty soon the morale went up and people were throwing out ideas and people were empowered to improve our business. And that's why one of the best features of our Restaurant Academy is you can assign any course to any number of employees or team members, I like to call them, in your business, to learn a piece of that business, to execute that business. And if they do an amazing job and if it does improve, like I said, you give them some type of an incentive for doing so. This is how you don't have to be tied to your business 24/7. That's empowerment. That's true leadership. They say you've got a system if you can leave your business for a day, a week, or a month. And when you come back, it's just as successful, just as profitable before you left. It takes a team to do that. It takes a village, they say. But think about how powerful that would be. What would it feel like if you could leave and not have to worry? If you felt like, oh, if I want something done right, I got to do it myself. I can go watch my kid's soccer game this afternoon because my team have my back. Too many operators today are tied to their businesses 24/7 because of the staffing issue, because they're hiring and not recruiting. I have a whole course on that. Recruiting versus hiring. It's like all these things were the keys to my success. Even after the pandemic, when I had bought a restaurant, I went through 2 years of pain, as you did, running this business, turning it around and then selling it. But again, it took systems to make it work. Okay, these are all the systems that I'm talking about. All right. Restaurant Academy, restaurantrockstars.com. Check it out. Thanks for listening. Listen, if you have a topic or a question or a pain point or a challenge, I encourage you to reach out to me, Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at restaurantrockstars.com. I'll answer your emails. I'll give you my best advice on something. And if you need more personal help, I also personally coach restaurants, and maybe we can work together. So reach out to me. Again, Roger at restaurantrockstars.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Listen, don't lose birthday business to your competition. People celebrate birthdays 7 days a week. The check averages are high, and when they have fun in your place, they'll come back again. Talk to my buddy Dyson. He's an operator also, just like you and me, but now he runs a done-for-you birthday club. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthdayrockstar. It's a piece of cake. People go to restaurants for lots of reasons. For fun, celebration, for family, for lifestyle. What the customer doesn't know is the thousands of details it takes to run a great restaurant. This is a high-risk, high-fail business. It's hard to find great staff. Costs are rising and profits are disappearing. It's a treacherous road and smart operators need a professional guide. I'm Roger. I've started many highly successful, high-profit restaurants that I've now sold for millions of dollars. I'm passionate about helping other owners and managers not just succeed, but knock it out of the park. I created a game-changing system, and it's filled with everything I've learned in over 20 years running super profitable, super fun restaurants. Everything from creating high-profit menu items and cost controls to staff training where your teams serve and sell, to marketing hooks, money-maximizing tips, and efficiencies across your operation. What does this mean to you? More money to invest in your restaurant, to hire a management team, time freedom, and peace of mind. You don't just want to run a restaurant. You want to dominate your competition and create a lasting legacy. Join the Academy and I'll show you how it's done.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.